We are recording. Okay. So I want to welcome everybody to tonight's webinar titled Don't Hit the Wall Marathon Nutrition with Tom Jordan. I'll give you a quick bio of Tom here in a second. I do just want to say, I'm very fortunate to have Tom as a partner of mine. Actually, for the last 4 years, Tom, if you can believe that already. Um, he has a background in nutrition counseling, sports performance research, and fitness training. Tom has definitely been a professional and dynamic resource to our team. He's served as an advisor to our programs and as a resource to our current and prospective runners. So a little bit about Tom, so uh, that what he's saying is coming certainly from a credible source. Tom has a bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics from Dominican University and a master's degree in human nutrition from Northern Illinois University. Um, his certifications are quite lengthy, so I'm not going to get into all of them, but he is an Illinois licensed dietitian nutritionist, in addition to being a certified personal trainer. Um, as a registered dietitian, Tom oversees the nutritional programs at the Burr Ridge Lifetime Fitness location. He's also an adjunct nutrition professor at Benedictine University in Lisle, Illinois. Tom has completed lots and lots of marathons. Super speedy guy, a sub 3 hour marathoner, a sub 38-minute 10K time, and a sub 18-minute 5K time. Those times have even improved since the last time I got that information from you, Tom. A real quick fun fact about Tom before I turn it over to him. Tom is certainly extremely active in the running community. He speaks to several running clubs. He also owns a race timing business. If you're in the Chicagoland area, there's a good chance that he's timed one of the races that you've participated in, as they do several hundred races a summer. So he certainly practices what he preaches. So, and then lastly, we do have individuals across the country on this call who are getting ready for the Chicago, New York City Marine Corps marathons, in addition to some other races. There's a lot of charity runners on the call, so definitely want to say thank you to all that you're doing, not only training, but also raising funds for great causes across the country. And without further ado, Tom, I am going to turn it over to you. I would just say, too, for those of you who are calling in, I will do my best to mute your line. I lose that capability once I start sharing my screen, and Tom's going to take you through the presentation. So please do your best to try to minimize any sort of background noise, as it does interfere with the listening experience on tonight's webinar. So Tom, the floor is yours.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and very glad to have the opportunity to talk to you guys. And I just kind of want to encourage anybody who has any questions to kind of chime in and just type a question in the chat bar, and I'll try to keep an eye on that and sort of answer those as those come in. I have some templated information, but the more you can get involved and the more I can kind of customize it to the questions that you have, I think the better off we'll be. So just want to encourage you to do that. The topic is going to be geared towards running nutrition, and we'll really focus on nutrient timing. And with a highlight, I know the majority of the people on this call are looking for the marathon. So I'll reference the marathon quite a bit, and but I think this applies to just general running and we'll kind of, and just general nutrient timing too. I think if there's any like triathletes, this is going to be relevant information as well.
And Tom, can you see the presentation?
Yep.
Cool. All right.
So do I just say Dane when to
you can say whatever you want. Yep.
All right. Okay. So with runners, usually, actually with nutrition clients too, I always start out with carbohydrates. I always want to get that on the table. And runners are relatively easy to sell on carbohydrates. because they understand the benefits of carbohydrates. And as far as a runner, if you haven't heard the term muscle glycogen, it's very, very important to runners in general, extremely important to marathoners because muscle glycogen is our easiest burning fuel. So as we go to higher intensities, we start to utilize carbohydrates and muscle glycogen. And as many of you know, when we run out, let's test that chat screen. When we run out of muscle glycogen, what's that going to be called? Somebody.
Everybody's typing away quickly.
There we go. Hitting the wall. Exactly. So we're burning muscle glycogen. You know, it's hard, but and bonking. Same thing. Perfect. When you're you know, it's tough. It's challenging. We're feeling fatigue, but we're still pushing through. If you are to run out of muscle glycogen, that's hitting the wall, and basically you're basically done. You can still burn fat, but to do that we have to drop down to a much lower intensity, and it's going to be significant decrease. So that's where when you're looking through marathon results, and I'm like, okay, this person was holding on to a 9:30 pace, 9:30. And then dropped to about a 10:05 or whatever, and then all of a sudden the last 4 miles are 14 minutes. That's hitting the wall. That to me, immediately I'm just going to jump to conclusions and assume that we probably could have prevented that either with training or nutrition. So that long story, but carbohydrates on the short term, like now, is very, very important for recovery. So if we're not fueling our body appropriately during training, then we're not recovering, we're not adapting to the workouts as you know that our coach has prescribed or the training plan has prescribed as well as we could. So we definitely want to focus on carbohydrates. And when I'm talking about carbohydrates, I know I'm throwing that term out there. We're looking at starchy foods. So whole grains, so breads, pastas, also fruits. Fruit's going to be 100%, basically 100% carbohydrate. 100% of the calories coming from fruit are carbs. And then we'll get a little bit of carbs from starchy vegetables like corn and peas, things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, quinoa. The key thing I want to highlight on the carbs is we want to focus on complex carbs generally. So high fiber, slow digesting, so things like sweet potatoes, quinoa, whole wheat pasta, whole grain bread, and fruits and starchy vegetables are going to be great options as complex carbs that are digested slowly, and our muscles are kind of able to take those up over the course of a couple hours, as opposed to like immediately. Like if we drink a can of soda, it's basically we have to deal with it right now, or we're storing that as body fat. So emphasizing whole grain carbs is going to be key for marathoners. Shorting ourselves in carbs, that is just not a real good idea. If we have to burn other fuels, our two options are fat and protein. If we're breaking down protein, then we're breaking down muscle. So the biggest pitch I have for carbs is adequate carbohydrate intake is going to spare muscle. And especially for marathon runners, this is incredibly important because this is one of the marathon training is one of the most catabolic exercises you can possibly do. Catabolic meaning breaking down muscle. So nutrition-wise, we want to really emphasize anything that we can do to maintain muscle, and getting adequate carbohydrates before, during, and after runs is going to be an important concept. I think we can jump to the next slide. And that issues in protein, which is an easy sell, right? It should be an easy sell. Protein works for just a number of different things in the body. Basically, anything you have to build in the human body, we're building from amino acids, which we get from protein. So enzymes to to develop antibodies for immune function, hormone production. And then a big one is going to be obviously muscle tissue. So as I mentioned, we're very, very catabolic doing these super long duration runs. We want to make sure that we're repairing that tissue. Because if you think about it, in your training plan, so we do a 16-mile run on a Saturday. That doesn't make you faster, and it doesn't give you more endurance. It actually breaks down muscle tissue. We're actually damaging our body's tissues, so your tissues are damaged post-workout. But the whole concept and the whole reason we do that is because we believe that if we give ourselves that acute stressor, that we will not only repair those tissues, but we're going to build them back a little bit stronger. And that's true, provided we have the resources to do that. And that's where protein comes in. We have to make sure that we're getting adequate protein. When we think about protein now, it's not just get as much as we can. If protein's great, let's have, like if a scoop of whey protein is 20 grams of protein, how about we do 3 scoops, right? So we'll just do 6 grams of protein. But the one key concept I want to hit here is optimal amount of protein. The optimal amount of protein at a sitting or at a meal is going to be around 30 grams. So 30 grams will do more for you than 20, but 40 doesn't really do a whole lot more than 30. So we're kind of like maxing out at 30. Not to say that 40, if you have a 6-ounce chicken breast for dinner, that was a waste or that was not good, but 30 is kind of the key number that I key in on. And when I'm designing a very good question, awesome question. Same for men and women. It's going to be more so no. If we're and that's going to be more based on size. So I'm going to stereotype here a little bit and say that a male has more lean body mass in general, and is typically a little bit bigger. So the where that number will deviate is going to be like very small, and this could be men or women. Somebody that's 120 pounds is going to have different protein needs than somebody who's 240 pounds. So as we get to, but I would say if you're in that 150 to 210 range, then I would use that 30 number. Under that, if we have a 130-pound runner, I might start to say maybe like 20, 25 grams of protein. And then a heavier person like 250, we might say like 35 grams. But so it's it is a little bit of a generalized number, but maybe a little bit smaller on the lower side for smaller people, a little bit on the higher side for heavier people. But so when I'm designing a nutrition plan and looking at somebody's nutrition and saying, okay, what do you eat in a typical day, and what tweaks can we make? One of the key things I'm looking for is I want to see how many, not how much protein they get in a day, but how many times are they getting in that 20 to 30 gram protein range. So and then we'll make some tweaks, because a lot of times we'll see somebody having good protein for lunch and good amount of protein for dinner, but then for breakfast they're saying, okay, I'm a runner, so I need to eat a bagel, or bagel and some cream cheese. So then we go back through and we say, okay, protein wise, you had good protein at 7 o'clock at night, and then fast forward 19 hours later, you had good amount of protein at lunch, but there's a 19-hour gap where there's really very little protein coming in. So timing on the protein is going to be important. We want to see 20 to 30 grams at least 3 times. I would like to see that at least 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then hopefully getting a little bit of protein in for a snack like mid-meal as well. I'm sorry, a couple questions popping up. So awesome. Ratio of carbs and proteins for preserve muscle. So the magic number out there is 4 to 1. So, and we're talking post-workout. So after workout, we're looking at about a 4 to 1 ratio or about a 3 to 1 ratio of carbs to protein, meaning if you're taking in, optimally we take 45 to 60 grams of carbs, and then about 15 to 30 grams of protein. That's optimal post-workout repletion. And that's going to be enough protein to stimulate muscle growth, and then enough carbs to stimulate that insulin response we want to kind of drive recovery. On the protein powder, so look at protein powder as basically, I look at it as chicken breast. So 1 scoop of protein powder is about 20 grams of protein. If we're talking about like whey protein, 1 scoop of protein powder is going to be 20 grams of protein. About a small, like 3-ounce serving of chicken breast is going to be about 21 grams of protein. And there's not a lot else, like as far as carbs, fat. So nutrient-wise, it's about the same. So I would never tell somebody, if they said, I'm having a 3-ounce chicken breast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'd never say, okay, that's a bad idea. That's way too much protein. But somebody that's doing a couple protein shakes a day, that somebody might look at that and say that's really weird behavior. It's equal. It's going to be the same. So there's nothing special about whey protein other than marketing. I mean, they do a fantastic job of marketing their products and making it sound like it's some kind of neurophysics science. They'll use all kinds of words like that. But it's just protein. Like it's simple protein. The only difference is convenience. So when we have somebody who did a hard workout, they went to the gym, they did a hard workout, they're on their way out, they have a 35-minute drive home, they're probably not going to be gnawing on the chicken breast on their way out of the gym, right? But if we could do like a protein shake and just do a scoop of protein powder, some coconut milk, and a piece of fruit, that's super convenient, it's portable, and it's easy. It's something they can do. So that would be my answer to protein powder. The next question, can you do a marathon without doing protein powder? Absolutely. Kind of the same reason that I kind of was just kind of going through, where it's going to be this. It's really, to me, it's food. Like people will say, I'll ask them about their supplements, and they'll say one of their supplements is whey protein. And to me, I don't consider whey protein a supplement, because I consider that food. So I know that was a lot of information. We have any other questions, and we can always come back to it as well, but any other questions about like protein and protein powder? Okay, yeah, and definitely, if you think of anything, definitely chime in. But so, and protein, again, I want to hit like the types of foods we're talking about. I think generally people know meat is going to be a good source of protein, and things like cheese, eggs, egg white, whey protein, of course, like we mentioned. There's some vegetarian sources of protein. If we're doing vegetarian protein, I would generally want to see like a blend of rice and pea, optimally. Rice protein is fine. It's just short in 1 amino acid, one of the 8 essential amino acids that we need. Pea protein, same thing. It's short in 1 of the 8 amino acids. However, they're different ones. So if you blend rice and pea protein together, you do get a balanced protein. And then as far as too much protein throughout the day, actually, and going up to that ratio of carbs to protein, I'm a huge fan of food logging. Like I think food logging it knocks so much guesswork out of it. And if it's somebody who says I hate logging food, I don't want to do it long term, I will say that's absolutely fine. Just give me 1 week. Just type in your food into a food log for 1 week, and it really gives us a clear shot at what they're eating. I generally will shoot for about 20 to 30% of calories coming from protein. So if somebody says I heard protein was really good, so I'm eating a lot of it, I get their food log and they're 45% protein, then yeah, I'm definitely going to drop them down. Like that's way too much. Like there's very little benefit of going over 30% of calories from protein. So that's the way I would break it down, is percentage of calories from protein. So 25% from protein is absolutely reasonable. And then also think too about with protein, so with calorie intake, doing more mileage and doing high volume exercise, your calorie intake probably is going up, hopefully to support, the amount of exercise you're doing. So generally somebody who's running that many miles is probably getting adequate protein just because of the fact that they're consuming more calories. Unless they're consuming more calories and it's all coming from carbohydrates because they're not really, planning their meals. But I think we can probably hit the next slide here. So I gotta hit fat, like fat, and this is a really cool topic when it comes to marathon nutrition, because fat is, we have to have oxygen to burn fat. So at lower intensities like half marathon pace and marathon pace, where we're almost completely aerobic, like if we can develop the aerobic system good enough, we can burn primarily fat. So and that's one of the things that training does. Training allows us to burn fat more efficiently at a higher intensity, so it's one of the points of training. And we basically have unlimited fuel supply with fat. Even a super lean person at 120 calories, 120 pounds, or 115 pound athlete that's super lean has more than enough fat calories to get them from one side of the country to the other, from ocean to ocean. Like, that's how many fat calories we have. We have about enough carbohydrate calories stored at any given time to go hard for about an hour and a half. So we will deplete all of our glycogen stores within an hour and a half of high intensity exercise, but we can burn fat for a long time. So it's just not as efficient of a source because we need oxygen, but you can condition your body to burn fat more efficiently. So, and just like if you train your body to run for a long distance of time, it gets adept to that and it's able to do it. So any ideas, like if we try to follow a very low fat diet, and I guess that's kind of a leading question, so I'll just answer it. But if we follow a low-fat diet, a very low-fat diet, we get very good at burning carbs, and we're not very good at burning fat. So when we get into the marathon then, and really essentially the whole concept is to burn fat more efficiently, we're not doing it very well. So that's where these low-fat diets are really counterproductive for endurance training. If we can and I would say a high-fat diet, I would consider this a moderate fat diet and I look for 30% fat. So 30% fat in the diet. And the reason is, if we can get to 30% fat and moderate the amount of carbs, we're essentially training our body to burn fat more efficiently. And this is good whether our goal is to perform in a marathon, or whether our goal is to lose weight, even for weight loss. We really push fat intake for weight loss as well, because the body gets more accustomed to burning fat. And we use at Lifetime, we use New Leaf, metabolic testing, and we can actually see this. Well, as a dietitian, this is really awesome, because we'll see people their RQ value, which basically tells us how much oxygen versus how much carbon dioxide are they burning at a given intensity during exercise. We'll see high RQ values, and I can just tell them, I'm like, you know what, your diet is way too high in carbohydrates. Like, you consume way too many carbohydrates for your activity level, and we can do this at rest too. So resting metabolic rate, if they're burning carbs at rest, we know that their carbohydrate intake is too high. So the testing that we do, we're really testing nutritionally and training wise too. So training the body to get more efficient at burning fat, it starts with the diet. So I know I really hammered that topic, but and when we look at fat too, I guess any questions when it comes to fat? Are you guys sold? Should I tell you?
I'm sold.
Sold. And, I think if we flip to the next slide.
Yep, and before I do, Jamie, that's a great reminder for those of you who are just joining. Please go ahead and mute your line. The option to do so should be on there, and we're getting some background noise there. So if you could do that, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay, so when it comes to fat, this year is one of the most important concepts when it comes to decreasing inflammation in the body. And speaking to a marathon runner, the long distance, high volume training is incredibly inflammatory. So we're really focused on decreasing inflammation. Also, if we look at just general health, the general health population, most diseases are either disease processes are either directly related to inflammation or indirectly. And whether that's diabetes, cancer, all the big ticket ones. Cardiovascular disease has a huge link to inflammation. So we can have a heavy impact on the amount of inflammation in our body based on the types of fat that we're consuming. And I want to jump back to a question real quick. The distribution of macronutrients, reducing carbs. So that's a pretty high level nutrition concept. Do we want to reduce carbs and increase protein on rest days versus training days? I would say yes. I'm a little bit hesitant to that because most people, it's a lot easier to get them on like a standard nutrition plan that doesn't really deviate day to day. If somebody has a really, really good handle on their macronutrient intake, that's where I would say I would have kind of that standard day, and that's high in protein, high in fat. So 30% fat, 30% protein, 40% carbs, and then on a high intensity training day, that's where I would bump the carbohydrate intake up. So if your tempo runs are on Thursdays, your speed work is on Tuesdays, and your long run is on Sunday, then kind of standard nutrition plan throughout the week, but then bumping up carbohydrate intake on Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, kind of those quality days. I guess is that what you were asking, Hannah? Okay, awesome. And then to hit the polyunsaturated fats, so typically, so we want to generally reduce the amount of saturated fat in our diet. Saturated fat is going to be pro-inflammatory. Anybody have an issue with the right column there? There's one thing kind of sticking out at me. Yeah, so I would carbohydrates pre-workout, long run. I would bump the carbohydrates up a little bit. There's going to be a benefit to that. We think of like train high, perform low, like with altitude training. So you wouldn't. Oh, there we go. Got it. Coconut oil. Got it. So the carbs before the long run. So I would, if you are going for a real long run on Sunday, I would bump the carbs up a little bit on Saturday night. Don't push it. We don't need to carb load for a training run. The idea of the training run is to produce to deplete glycogen. So don't go into a long run glycogen depleted. But also, if you don't carb load for 3 days for that run either, because we do want to see a little bit of glycogen depletion before the long run. All right, so that was the one. Coconut oil. It made the list because of saturated fat. However, I think I'm revoking it from the avoid this list. and I'm going to move coconut oil back over to the left. Coconut oil is saturated fat, however, it's a medium, it's a shorter fat, so it's a lot easier for the body to deal with, and I think there's a lot more health benefits coming out as far as coconut oil. So kind of block that off your screen, but I would say saturated fats and animal fats in general are going to be more pro-inflammatory, so increasing inflammation. A marathon runner does not need to increase inflammation. You have way more inflammation than you need to deal with anyway. We really want to suppress inflammation, and some potent anti-inflammatory components are going to be found on the left there. So the one animal fat that will strongly deviate from that rule is fish. So fish has EPA and DHA, really strong anti-inflammatory components. So that's where we see like certain populations, like Eskimos, they eat incredibly high amounts of fat. And what we found through research in the 90s was high-fat diets cause cardiovascular disease. So that's what causes heart attacks, high-fat diet. But come to find out, Eskimos eat the highest fat diets known to man, and they get no heart attacks, like at all, like absolutely zero. And that's because most of their fish is coming from omega-3s that we're going to see from fish, flax seeds, walnuts, also some of the mono unsaturated fats like avocados and olives or olive oil. And so the items on the left are going to suppress inflammation. They're going to help us absorb fat-soluble vitamins. And then the processed fats, the high-fat meat, sausage, bacon, I'm sorry, guys, I apologize. But, you know, butter, and then also like junk fats, like the trans fats, like baked goods, cookies, cakes, things like that are going to be a double whammy because they're giving us trans fat, but also hitting us with the pro-inflammatory. Another great opportunity to increase inflammation is high sugar intake. I think we can probably hit the next. No bacon. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, there's no judgment here if on a 20-mile training run the last 5 miles of that you're thinking about a bacon wrapped cupcake to get you through the last 5 miles. There's no judgment coming from here.
Right. Agreed. and I'm also a huge fan. Like one of my favorite comments is everything in moderation, even moderation. Like it's fine. I hope that once in a while you're having some bacon, and so we'll execute moderation in all things, and even moderation. Sometimes it's time, once in a while. You should have a feast once in a while. If it's your birthday, it's your birthday. So I had a client tell me that they had people were going crazy on Thanksgiving, and they were sitting in the corner eating carrot sticks, and they got a very harsh. They were looking for me to pat them on the back and high five, and they got a nice little lecture. So yeah, everything in moderation, even moderation. As far as fluids, we know that everything in the body, every chemical reaction in the body, including human metabolism, calorie production, takes place in an aqueous environment, meaning a hydrated environment. So if you're dehydrated, your ability to function on all levels decreases. So fluid intake is very, very important. A 1% loss in body weight, which is not that much, we'll start to see a decline in performance. So for a 150-pound person, 1.5 pounds, which might sound like a lot, I'm a heavy sweater, so it's really not challenging for me to lose 7 or 9 pounds of water if it's a humid day and I forget my water bottle. So that's a pretty significant level of dehydration. It depends on sweat rate. So if you have a very effective cooling mechanism and you're sweating at a high level, a lot of sweat, then we need to obviously focus more on hydration. And the biggest thing that I'll do for this is encourage people to weigh in before and after a workout. So track before and after a run. So weigh in, go for your run, track how much water you consumed. So one 16 ounces of water is 1 pound. So if we're gonna, let's say I ran and for an hour and I consumed 32 ounces of water, and okay, let's say 16 ounces of water, and I lost 2 pounds. That means that I lost 2 pounds plus the 1 pound that I consumed. My sweat rate in those conditions is 3 pounds or 3 pounds per hour. So to maintain hydration, I would have to consume 48 ounces of water in the, if that's a human day. I think I have that on the next slide, maybe. So not really, but as far as dehydration, like if you get any of these signs, it's way too late. Like if you wait until you have thirst comes in super late. So if you're getting thirsty during a run, that's a really big indicator that not only do you need to consume fluids right now, but you need to kick it in gear long before that in the future. So if you're getting any kind of like rapid heart rate or like start to get dizzy or confused, it's really time to kind of stop and consume some fluids and get rehydrated. Seth, do you have any specific recommendations on your end as far as like bottle holders or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question from Sheila. This is a very individual type thing. I would say some of my favorite are products from Fuel Belt, which they have handheld holders to hold on the run for maybe some of your shorter runs. You also have where they have the belts actually as well. Nathan puts out some really good products. And then, it just depends too. Some people don't like to carry water in their hands or have it strapped to their hand. And then others I know don't like the belt because it tends to bounce up and down when you run. I know a lot of the products nowadays are so sophisticated that that's not the case. A few years back, I used to run with a Camelback with the bladder for my long run. Some people can't fathom running with essentially a backpack on. So my recommendation would be listen to everyone but follow no one when it comes to that. So basically you're going to want to try out some different things. Go to the running to your local running specialty store, or order it from Amazon and try it out on a couple runs. But Fuel Belt, Nathan, and Camelback are a couple that I would recommend.
Awesome. Yeah, I like the Fuel Belt. I like the little bottles spread around. So like the 4 bottles, like the little, like I think they're like 6-ounce bottles spread around, so I can still get 24 ounces. I mean, my method was carry a 20-ounce Gary bottle for the first 2 miles, and drop it at the 2-mile mark, and then drop the next one at the next 2-mile mark, and then get them on the way back. So I don't think I have a very good good recommendation as far as Fuel Belt. And then I think Gatorade, I think we got on the next slide. Getting an idea of your hydration or your sweat rate at different environmental conditions. So humid days, if you think about what sweat is essentially it has one function. Like your body is trying to cool itself. So to cool, water has a very high, it holds heat really well. So what the body's trying to do is it's trying to get fluid onto your skin to absorb the heat, and then when that fluid dissipates, the heat dissipates too. So on a hot day, you'll sweat more because it's hotter outside. On a humid day, you'll sweat more because the dissipation of sweat off of the skin is less. If it's a very dry day, then water dissipates really well and sweat works really awesome. If it's 90% humidity, then sweat really doesn't work, and your body doesn't know what humidity is. Your body's just going to say, oh, I'm hot, I should sweat more. So it'll keep sweating even though the sweat mechanism is not really working. So we need to know Yeah, I'm just sorry. Florida, that's rough.
It's miserable down here. At least Jen is honest.
I lived in southern southeast Georgia for a while, so I know it's pretty bad. Yeah, Austin, Texas, man. Well, at least you guys don't have to deal with the Chicago winters. That's, I guess, is all I got to say. But yeah. So if it's humid and hot, then yeah, we're really gonna have to focus on hydration. Um, we talked about the importance of carbohydrates before. If we're shooting for like a 30 or 40-minute run, I'm not too worried about muscle glycogen depletion. So plain water is fine. But if we're going over 60 minutes, or if it's hot and humid, that's where we want a sports beverage like a Gatorade, because it does a couple things. One is it gives us carbohydrates, so we're burning carbs instead of breaking down muscle glycogen and muscle. So carbohydrates during the run will it will stave off protein breakdown, and it will also protect glycogen. So some carbohydrates during the run is going to be good, but also sodium. So sodium is, think of this, water follows sodium. So we have a higher sodium beverage, we're going to retain more of that water, versus it's a lot easier for the kidney to just kind of clear it out if it's plain water. So I'm a huge fan of sodium during exercise. Standard amounts of sodium are going to be about 100 milligrams per 8 ounces in most beverages, but actually optimal is going to be like about 200 milligrams. So a little higher sodium intake, and is going to help us retain that water a little bit better. And this is individual specific. So generally, we're looking at during the run trying to get about 2 to 3. It really depends on the individual. Like I absolutely need at least 3 cups of water just because I sweat so much during the run. Other people, if I even said that number to them, they would look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, absolutely not. There's no way. The idea of the coconut question, coconut water question. Coconut water is high in potassium, and it's got a little bit of sugar, which is a good thing. But sugar is actually good, like during exercise, because we talk about how high low glycemic and high fiber is good. That's good when we're at rest, but when we're out running, like we want fuel. We don't want to have to deal with fuel. We don't have to break it down and digest it, and the GI tract's working. We want something that's the simplest form possible. So that's where, in this case, we're burning 600, 800 calories an hour. Like, we need to get food or nutrients through the GI tract quickly and into the bloodstream. And sugar is relatively easy. It's super simple. So during exercise, as simple as possible, we're looking for about 14 grams of carbs per cup of fluid. That's the reason for that is that's the same concentration and same as osmolality as blood. So it's a lot easier to move that through the intestinal tract and get it into the bloodstream than something that's a little higher in sugar, like juice. Like 30 grams of sugar per cup is just way too much, just way too high. And that's also kind of the downside to goo. I think I have this in the next slide. If we flip to the next one. Oh no, I guess but like goo is just, it's really thick. So that's like 20 grams of sugar, 25 grams of sugar. So, which is fine as long as we're filling up on, as long as we're getting some water and fluids in with it. So that's a little bit dense in carbohydrates for our GI tract. It's super simple, so it's pretty easy to digest. And I would say to somebody, like, if they like it and they tolerate it well, I would never tell them not to do it. But I would say we want to try to like dilute that a little bit. So I look at goo as like a portable Gatorade. So a thing of goo and 16 ounces of water is the same as 16 ounces of Gatorade. But all of those all of those like syrups, I think are really good source of carbs. So I don't want to like downplay and say don't do goo. You have to have carbs during the run, and especially for somebody who doesn't tolerate a lot of fluids, that's a good option. So goo and any of those are going to be fine. I think I hit those questions. So we kind of hit pre, during, post. That's very, very important for nutrient timing, but the other 20 hours of the day is going to be really important as well. So make sure that we're fueling our muscles. Our muscles should see some sort of nutrition every 3 to 4 hours. So do not go. There's one reason to go 9 hours without food, and that's if we're doing something that's incredibly important to training, which is sleep. So absolutely, obviously, don't wake up every 3 hours to get food in. But during the day, every 3 to 4 hours, focused on slow nutrition. So like during the day, the rest of the time, we're looking at slow nutrition, meaning high fiber carbs, lean proteins, healthy fat, whole grains, good nutrient density from a variety of different colors of fruits and vegetables. As far as anything that you're going to be doing on race day, please do not read an article and, okay, this person did this this nutrition tip during the race, so I'm going to implement that on race day. Any good ideas you have, totally fine. Let's just try them on the long run. So hitting them on the long run, don't try anything new on race day. Just like shoes, right? Like don't go buy a pair of shoes the day before your race. Like we want to test them out, break them in, and have them on a couple training runs first. Okay, so super early. I need to start my run at 5 a.m. We would love to have a pre-workout meal an hour prior, but I'm a crazy person if I want to tell somebody to wake up at 4 just to get a meal, right? Not going to happen. So if we're doing a super early run, think simple. The closer it is to your run, the simpler it needs to be. And I'll say, like, if I'm going to drive to the forest preserve and go run and I got 15 minutes, for me, in 15 minutes I can digest pretty much, like a real simple oatmeal, like a Quaker oatmeal or like a small bowl of cereal. Some people need 30 or 45 minutes for that. Like a granola bar would be something real quick. A power bar, like not the high protein, but just like a regular power bar is super easy. So if you're in that 30 to 45 minute window, I would go that route. I'll say like a couple days where I just basically had to wake up and run. Like I got to go just super, super fast nutrition. Like I didn't even have time for a granola bar. That's where I would just put some sugar in my coffee. Like that's going to be like the quickest possible, because I know that I'm just not going to go out and run on an empty stomach, because I have this glycogen muscle breakdown thing in the back of my head, and I want some carbohydrates in my system. So if I got about 3 minutes to get them there, I would just put sugar in my coffee. I didn't ever hear a dietitian say that, but if I got 15 minutes, I'm going like one of those simple granola bars. If I have 30 minutes, I'm going like a simple oatmeal or bowl of cereal. Yeah, I was gonna go like bagel too, like a bagel, Ezekiel bread with peanut butter, and also like that's a really good point. Individual specific. So technically, like theoretically, peanut butter is going to be higher in fat with a little bit of fiber, so that's not a great pre-workout run, pre-workout meal. But if somebody says, hey, I do peanut butter before a race or before a workout and it works great for me, I'll be the first person to say, awesome, like that's fantastic, keep doing that. Apple and honey, there you go. So there's some simple carbohydrates, and honey is essentially just sugar, right? So you're getting some quick carbohydrates into your system. Long run on the hydration. So weigh yourself, as you start to do your long runs, weigh yourself in before and after. If you're losing a significant amount of weight, we need to up your your fluid intake. So fluid is going to be very, very, very specific to the individual. So if it's somebody that sweats a lot, I would say 30 ounces of water is on a hot day is way too little. But then if it's somebody who doesn't really have a high sweat rate, that might be fine. So weigh yourself in before your run, weigh yourself in after. Now, if there's any variables, like you went to the bathroom during the run or something, you got to kind of account for that. But yeah, try to get an idea of a sweat rate and the amount of weight that you're losing pre and post running. And then as far as toast goes back to time. So if we have and also preference, like put on toast what you like. You should be having if you're about to go do a 15-mile run, you should have something you enjoy. So, but if we have like 30 or 45 minutes, like peanut butter would be fine because that's going to take a little bit more time to digest. And then, but if we're going back to that, like we got to hit the road soon, that's when we might do like a jelly, where that's just basically sugar, so it's going to digest really quick. And then oatmeal will be fine. With or without milk, I think is fine. So milk is going to have some protein in it, so it'll slow it down a little bit, but I think it's going to be negligible. I would just go by preference there. If you want milk, then put it in there. If you'd rather do it with water, that's fine. Yeah, real quick on carb loading, and I guess really this slide is kind of what we were hitting in the last couple. If you go one more slides of carb loading, just a real quick note on carb loading. Carb loading is not what you do the night before the race. Carb loading is going to be a 2 or 3 day process. So start carb. If your race is on Sunday, I would just really slightly decrease carbohydrate intake on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just very slight like reduction. And then I usually will go for a pretty solid run, like a tune-up run on Thursday. And then and then as soon as that runs over, then we're crushing the carbs. So not like binge eating at Dairy Queen type of crushing carbs, but really pushing carbohydrates Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So 3 days. We want to try to hit 3 days. And then, and because if our goal is just there's only so much the body can do, and you're not gonna build that much muscle glycogen the night before a race. So when you think carbohydrate loading, think like 3 day process. I think we have one more. I think I got one more slide on there. This was the during the run, simple carbs, very easy digestible. Try it out. That was 7%. That's like the 14 grams of carbs per cup. That's the consistency we're looking for. And fructose. I mean, fructose as the first ingredient, which high fructose corn syrup is probably not the best thing for the first ingredient. So we can click to the next one. Yeah, this is really important. So post-workout, just make sure that try to do it as early as you can. I mean, it's not like it has to happen within 15 minutes, but try to really focus on getting something in right after your workout. Don't go for a run and then go, you get busy and you go grocery shopping and doing errands and then don't eat for 4 hours. So really push that post-workout meal and think of something that's going to get there quick. So this is where, like a regular meal, just sweet potatoes and for your carb would be fine. It doesn't have to be like real simple like sugar, but really push fluids, carbohydrates, and protein post workout. This is the most important when it comes to nutrient timing for me, because this is where we stimulate recovery. And like I mentioned before, like the whole concept of putting your body through that is not to get faster, because you don't get faster from running, you get slower, but it's adapting to that run. It's you get faster over the next 24 to 48 hours after the run is over. So this is the key to stimulating that process, is post-workout getting some carbs and protein in. We click to the next one. Just highlight for vitamins and minerals. So this is going to be just nutrient-dense foods. So the more colors that you consume, as far as the produce, vitamins and plants, and fruits and vegetables, just get as many colors as we can. All of these different colors are different phytonutrients, which are plant chemicals that protect the plant. But when we consume them, they're also protecting ourselves. And like I kind of mentioned before, marathon runners need a lot of protection to their cells. So as many colors out of the different vitamins and minerals as we can, and then absolutely, in my opinion, every marathon runner should be on a quality multivitamin to make sure that they're getting, just as an insurance policy, to make sure they're getting the nutrients they need, because that amount of physical activity really increases our need for vitamins and minerals, and it's not coming from our food. Awesome. Jenna gets a gold star. That's very close second to multivitamin is going to be fish oil. So increasing omega-3s with fish oil. So I'll go multivitamin, fish oil, and then generally whey protein. I know before I said that wasn't a supplement, but typically it's a good easy option for some protein. BCAAs are so branched chain amino acids, which we do get from protein. However, the branched chain amino acids are a little bit more important when it comes to preventing muscle breakdown. So like I definitely do branched chain amino acids. I do it during the run just to prevent muscle breakdown. Like post-run, it's really designed for like after a workout, like adding BCAAs, but in my opinion, like I'm getting 30 grams of protein post-workout anyway. So I would do the branched chain amino acids. I put those in my sports drink. Whether the sports drink can just add branched chain amino acids just to, especially for like those really catabolic runs, like the long runs. Potassium is not I would get potassium from food. So potassium is going to be from basically your I know bananas get a lot of press when it comes to potassium, but vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, and fruits, so produce. And we really don't lose a lot of potassium in sweat. Like you'll see the electrolyte drinks and stuff like that promoting how we have 4 electrolytes. We have all 4. We have potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sodium. And Gatorade only has sodium, so that must mean it's better, right? The problem is that sweat only has sodium. Like you really do not lose very much potassium or magnesium from sweat. Now, if somebody is getting cramps, then we really got to identify what that is. And there's so many different things that cause it. It could be lack of fluids. It could be they're overheating. It could be potassium. If it is potassium or magnesium, then we probably want to supplement more throughout the day. I rarely supplement with potassium because I think that there's some awesome ways to get potassium, and that's eating more fruits and vegetables. So magnesium, I would definitely consider supplementing with magnesium because that's one of the most common nutrient deficiencies is magnesium. But I generally would not do a potassium supplement. Do I have one more slide? I have 2 more slides. Weight loss. A lot of people will run a marathon to lose weight. Not a big fan. Like if your sole goal is weight loss, there's a lot better ways to do it than running a marathon. And some people may lose weight running. It's ironic because it's probably the #1 way you can burn calories. I mean, there's very few things the human body can do that burn calories more efficiently than running. and weight loss is essentially about burning calories. But if your goal is to lose weight, I'm just not a big fan of using marathon running to do that. So, but as far as weight loss goes, if that's our goal, we're looking for moving more, regular physical activity, moderately reducing calorie intake, but developing and keeping healthy eating patterns and food log. Like I have, it's hard for me to find people who I don't think would benefit from logging their food, whether it's for a week or ongoing. And then it has to happen at the right time with the right resources. I think I got one more slide. These slides just keep going. Same thing with weight loss. Eating every 3 to 4 hours. Make sure that we're feeding our lean body mass. And I'm sorry. This is general metabolism. So keep your metabolism going by eating every 3 to 4 hours. Eat enough calories. We don't want to be restricting calories. Because I'm going to go back one more time to that concept of how do you get faster and how do you get more endurance. It's the 24 to 48 hours following your run. So if you're not fueling efficiently the day after your run, you're hurting your running potential. And have to throw in just a piece on the importance of muscle. I love it when people say that, oh man, isn't that running bad for your knees? I don't run because it's bad for my knees. That's just like you're like teeing it up for me. Like I'm so happy when I hear that, because running is bad for your knees if you do it wrong. So if you don't have the strength and stability and flexibility, and you just lace up the shoes and tear off down the street, yes, you should expect that to be bad for your knees. But there's tons, I mean hundreds of stories of people who run 100 miles a week, and if your body is conditioned to do it, you have the strength, stability, and flexibility, and good nutrition to support it, and recovery, then there's good enough research showing that runners actually have better knees than people who are sedentary. One more?
There it is.
There you go. You can do it. So, and the bottom line is, we want to set ourselves, this time right now is setting yourself up for success. You have to build. I heard a runner one time say, Bill Rogers, or one of the big time guys, said, I've heard it said that running is all mental. And I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but basically, like, that's garbage. Like there's a lot of mental to it, but you have to have the body to run. Like, now is preparing your body, your training, and your nutrition to be able to do it. But when it comes to race day, I mean, there's a time where you gotta hunker down, and it's heart and soul. So that's what I absolutely fell in love with the marathon because it doesn't matter who you are, it's going to take every ounce that you got, and it's a test of your mental strength. And I think, Seth, you got one more slide. I think I'm done.
Yeah, and that's just on some upcoming webinars we'll touch on here in a second. But I know that that's a great point Jamie pointed out, and I know Tom, and just talking with you, you're a big fan of MyFitnessPal, so that's great that Jamie pointed that out. And then, so yeah, we do have a few more minutes here for some questions. I know Lorena has a question there. Now is the time to ask. Again, this is all being recorded. You will all be sent the recording, and Tom's information is on the first slide. So if you have any questions that you forget to ask or don't think of now and you want to ask and you think of it later, you can certainly email me and I can put you in touch with Tom, or I'm sure Tom is okay with you emailing him directly. But Lorena asks, what types of power bars or goos do you recommend to eat during the long runs or marathon?
So I would say that's personal preference. I would like to see some sodium in there. So like the goo gels, and pretty much to me they're all the same. Like they all supply what you need. It's sugar. Like it's pretty simple. Like anybody can. Do you like sports beans, or do you like the Gatorade chews, or whatever? It's really just sugar, and sugar is pretty simple to do. So having some sugar and sodium. So as long as there's sodium in the product, I think that's a good option. I want to hit the water question. So I think hopefully we've heard of hyponatremia. So that's hypo is low and natremia is sodium. So basically the sodium depletion. If you think about the sweat, so we're sweating water and salt. So if we put water in and we put salt and water out, and we continue to do that over time, we can deplete the amount of sodium in our body. If we get an extreme depletion of sodium, that's going to cause heart failure, and that's why people die. If there's somebody who died in a marathon, most likely it was hyponatremia. It was somebody who, but now, as scary as it is, when 40,000 people run a marathon and there's 600 marathons over the course of the year, and one person dies at the Chicago Marathon, then of course the press takes that all over and be like, oh my gosh, running will kill you. It kills 1 out of every 100,000 people that do it. A lot more people die from not running than people that die from running. But as far as back to the hyponatremia, if you are severely dehydrated, depleted of sodium. So to be able to do that, you have to sweat a ton and drink a ton of water. So as long as you're drinking a beverage with sodium in it, it's highly unlikely that you'll get hyponatremia. But yes, you can drink too much water if you're drinking without sweating, like at rest. It's pretty hard to do, but you'd have to kind of be belligerent. You'd have to drink several gallons to do that. But high sweat rate. So I would just bottom line is if you are drinking if there's sodium in your beverage, you're fine. And then power bars. So I'm trying to think of a easier way to phrase this. Like carbohydrates, I look for 1 gram of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight per hour. So that's basically like if you divide your weight by 2, that's how many grams of carbohydrates per hour that you're able to metabolize. Real short story, 45 to 60 grams. 45 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. In terms of Gatorade, we're looking at about 3 to 4 cups of Gatorade. If it's a power bar or a goo generally will have about 25, so I'd be looking at like two goos per hour during a long run.
I think Jamie has a question too about salt tablets. Is this something that I should add to my regimen? What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, so salt tablets to me, I mean, I'm not real. I know they're super popular. I'm just not really a big fan because I feel like the salt is in the Gatorade. Now, optimal would be like the Gatorade tried to come out with their what was like the performance Gatorade. Is that right?
Yep.
I remember.
Or endurance or
yeah, like the endurance formula,
yep.
Which had 200 milligrams of sodium, which is optimal. So it really should be about 200 milligrams of sodium per cup. And for whatever reason, that didn't really take off very well. And so I don't know if it's still out there or not, but that would be a case for if you are a salty sweater. So when you get done with a long run on a hot day, if there is streaks of white in your shirt, then that's where I would consider doing like a little bit of salt tablet. So, and also experiment. Like if you do it and you feel like it helps, then we'll continue. But generally, we should be able to get enough salt from like normal Gatorade. And then going back to the goos, 2 per hour. So I would say 2 goos per hour, and then spread it out as long as you can. So if it's possible, I mean, I know you don't want to carry that thing, but like if you could milk it a little bit and have like a quarter of it, like just squeeze like a quarter of it and kind of hang on to it, and then a quarter of it again, like every 5 minutes, and spread it out as long as you can. I wouldn't do two at the same time. Like if you did 50 grams of carbs at once, then that's going to be sitting in your stomach, and your stomach's going to have to deal with that. But if you can kind of get like a little bit at a time, that gives you more like an IV drip. So a lot easier to deal with. Your stomach really has to deal with very little, very little at the same at that time. If you can kind of spread it out. What was the question? Would you change it from my long run pre-run nutrition? Like I think we're talking about GUs there. So doing a GU like pre long run, and if that's the case, I think that's awesome. Like pre long run, we're looking for like simple carbs. So the simpler the better, and you can't really get more simple than GU, because GU is basically just syrup. It's just carbohydrates in liquid form. So doing that before a run would be good. We're talking about the toasted peanut butter. Okay, I'm gonna turn that back to you and say, if it's working, keep doing it. So if you do toast and peanut butter and it works, then keep doing it. If you feel any kind of GI stress, like distress, and you kind of feel like some food bouncing around in your stomach while you're trying to do your track workout, the first thing I'm going to say is, let's try to do maybe like, let's do like toast and jelly, so it's a little bit easier digested. And then the GU chews and the gel are the same. Yeah, it's the same concept. The chew might be just slightly more difficult to digest, but it's kind of negligible. So starting week 6 of 18 training, is it too late to start? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure exactly what you're asking, Todd. Maybe if you could clarify, that'd be helpful.
I'll say that most likely my answer is gonna be no. So, you're just starting training now. So that would be Seth, right? You're just starting now on. We're 6 weeks into an 18-week training.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking more from a nutrition standpoint. Or Todd is saying no. Starting proper nutrition. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'll turn it back over to you, Tom.
Yeah. So absolutely not. So the no matter what, it's never too late to get started. That's just like, and I don't know why I bring this up, but I was working with somebody who's a financial planner, and I said, I just don't really do a good job of balancing my checkbook, and I'd have to go back, and she said to me, like, what would you tell me? What would you tell me if I said that my nutrition was completely off, and I'm not even going to log it because I don't know what I did? I would say, you would tell me, start today. You will benefit. And actually, you'll probably see more benefits than anyone who's already executing good nutrition, because you've been able to push through with not suboptimal nutrition. So you're going to see a drastic improvement to timing some nutrients more appropriately and getting your cells more nutrition.
So I think maybe we have time for maybe one more question. And again, if we don't get your question answered this evening, we can certainly follow up with an email to either myself or to Tom. Obviously, I think we've all kind of gathered from this webinar tonight that Tom is certainly an expert in this field. And again, I knew it would be great to have him on, because not only is he a nutrition expert, but he's also a marathoner himself, and works with marathoners on a daily, weekly basis. So I want to say, Tom, a huge thank you to you. Um, and looks like Tom may have gotten cut off. So Tom did get cut off, but he's saying that if there are more questions, he can certainly answer them via email. And so I would encourage everybody to do that. So if you do have any questions, email me or Tom. I'll go to this last slide here and just remind everybody that we do have a couple more upcoming webinars to do here before race day, and we may be adding another one or two to this list. But just as a reminder, on Thursday, July 28th at 6:30 p.m., we will be holding a yoga mobility webinar with Alex Holfelt, who is a registered yoga teacher. And he is going to be giving you 2 or 3 things that you can take and do over a 10 to 15 minute period every night that will seriously reduce your risk of injury through running. So he is a mobility expert, and that's one that you're not going to want to miss. It's actually going to be one of the most important webinars that we do during the summer and fall. And then on Thursday, August 11th, same time, we are going to be holding a minimizing injury risk with Denise Smith. She is a physical therapist and a certified running technique specialist, and we're all going to be talking about all things minimizing risk of injury and staying consistent in training. So thank you to everybody who took time out of their busy schedules to join us this evening. I will be sending out a recording of this webinar later this week, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to either contact myself, Coach Kopf at kopfrunning.com, or Tom. His email is listed on the first page of this presentation. Thank you to all, and best of luck in training, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.